Marcus Cole had seen better days, and he had definitely seen better job offers. The bar on Station Kappa 7 smelled like old fuel and cheap alcohol, and the man sitting across from him smelled like money. That was the only reason Marcus was still listening to this nonsense about escorting some diplomat through the fringe sectors. "The pay is good," the contact said, sliding a data chip across the sticky table. "And the job is simple. You get the client from point A to point B without anyone dying." Marcus picked up the chip and turned it over in his scarred fingers. He'd been a sergeant in the Earth Coalition, Marines, for 12 years before he got tired of following stupid orders from stupid officers. Now he worked for himself, took the jobs he wanted, and answered to nobody. "Who is the client?" he asked. "Does it matter?" "It always matters." The contact smiled in a way that Marcus did not like. "Let us just say the client is someone important who does not want to be found. You will meet them at Docking Bay 14 in 3 hours. Do not be late." And then the contact was gone, leaving Marcus alone with his drink and his doubts. 3 hours later, Marcus stood in Docking Bay 14 with his gear bag over his shoulder and his plasma pistol on his hip. The ship waiting for him was a Valhyrian vessel, all smooth silver lines and elegant curves. He had never been on a Valhyrian ship before, but he knew enough about the species to be surprised. The Valhyrian were old. Their empire had been sailing between the stars when humans were still figuring out fire. They were tall and graceful, with silver skin and eyes like liquid gold, and they looked at humans the same way humans looked at bugs. So why would a Valhyrian need a human bodyguard? The answer walked down the boarding ramp and stopped Marcus dead in his tracks. She was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Her skin shimmered like moonlight on water, and her golden eyes held centuries of pride and power. She wore simple traveling clothes, but she carried herself like a queen. "You are the human?" she asked, and her voice dripped with disapproval. "Sergeant Marcus Cole, at your service," he said with a slight bow that he did not really mean. "Former sergeant," she corrected him. "You are a mercenary now. A sales word. A hired killer. I prefer the term security consultant." She did not laugh. Marcus was starting to think she did not know how. "I am Salith," she said, and she did not offer any other name. "You will address me as my lady. You will stay out of my way. You will speak only when spoken to. And you will get me to the Kethrin system alive. Do you understand?" Marcus understood that this was going to be the longest job of his life. "Yes, my lady," he said through gritted teeth. They boarded the ship, and Marcus quickly learned that Salith was not just difficult. She was impossible. She complained about everything. The temperature of the ship was wrong. The food was wrong. The way Marcus walked was too loud and too heavy. She treated him like a servant, which technically he was, but that did not make it easier to swallow. On the second day, Marcus finally asked the question that had been eating at him. "Why do you need a human bodyguard?" he asked while Salith picked at her dinner. "The Valhyrian have the best soldiers in the galaxy. Why hire someone like me?" Salith looked at him with those cold, golden eyes. "Because humans are disposable," she said. "If something goes wrong, nobody will miss you. Nobody will ask questions. You are expendable in a way that a Valhyrian guard would not be." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. "Good to know where I stand. Now you do," she said, and went back to her food. But Marcus was not stupid, and he knew there was more to this story. The ship was running without any identification signals. They were taking routes that avoided all major trade lanes. And Salith jumped at every unexpected noise. She was running from something. On the fourth night, Marcus could not sleep. He wandered the ship and found Salith standing alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. For once, she did not look cold and proud. She looked small and scared. "Cannot sleep?" he asked, and she jumped at his voice. You should not sneak up on people, she snapped. I was not sneaking. You were distracted. She turned back to the stars and said nothing for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer than Marcus had ever heard it. Do you know what it is like to have your entire life planned out for you? She asked. To have every choice made by someone else, every path decided before you were even born? Marcus leaned against the wall and crossed his arms. I spent 12 years in the military. I know something about following orders. It is not the same, she said. You could leave. You did leave. I cannot. Why not? She laughed, but there was no joy in it. Because I am Princess Salith Vorn, third daughter of Empress Valith Vorn, ruler of the Valhiram Dominion. My blood is not my own. It belongs to my house, my people, my mother. Marcus felt his eyebrows rise. You are a princess? Does that change things? It explains why you are so good at being difficult. She almost smiled at that. Almost. I am to be married, she said. To Lord Catherine of the Northern Houses. It will end a war that has lasted 300 years. It will save thousands of lives. And it will destroy mine. So you ran. So I ran, she agreed. And now I am hiding in the dark spaces between stars with only a human mercenary for company. And I do not even know if I am doing the right thing. Marcus looked at her. Really looked at her, and for the first time he saw past the arrogance and the coldness. He saw a young woman trapped by her own birth, desperate for a freedom she had never known. For what it is worth, he said, I think everyone deserves to choose their own life. Salith looked at him with something like surprise. That is a very human thing to say. Well, I am a very human person. This time she did smile. Just a little. Just for a moment. And then the alarm started screaming, and the moment shattered like glass. Marcus was moving before he even thought about it, grabbing Salith and pulling her away from the observation windows as the ship rocked with the impact of weapons fire. What is happening? She demanded. Marcus checked his wrist display and felt his blood go cold. 3 ships had dropped out of hyperspace right on top of them, and he recognized the configuration. Raiders, he said. Kethri slavers. They must have been tracking us. Salith's face went pale. If they capture me, they will not capture you, Marcus said, and he was surprised to find that he meant it. He pulled his plasma pistol and checked the charge. Fully loaded. He had 2 more charge packs on his belt, a combat knife on his thigh, and 12 years of training telling him exactly how bad this situation was. The ship shuddered again as grappling hooks bit into the hull. Get behind me, Marcus said, and stay there no matter what happens. You cannot fight them alone, Salith said. There could be dozens of them. Marcus smiled, and it was not a nice smile. Then I guess I will have to kill dozens of them. The first boarding tube connected with a screech of metal, and Marcus Cole went to war. The first Kethri came through the boarding tube with its mandibles clicking and its blade raised high, and Marcus put 2 plasma bolts through its chest before it could take a single step. The creature fell, but 3 more climbed over its body, and behind them Marcus could hear dozens more. The Kethri were insectoids, 7 feet tall with armored shells and 4 arms that could each hold a weapon. They were fast and brutal, and they did not know fear. But neither did Marcus Cole. He fired again and again, each shot finding its target, each target dropping to the floor. The corridor filled with the smell of burned chitin and the screams of dying raiders. There are too many, Salith shouted from behind him. Then stop counting, Marcus shouted back. A Kethri blade sliced across his arm, cutting deep through muscle. He grunted at the pain but did not stop. He put his pistol against the creature's head and fired, then spun to face the next attacker. Blood ran down his arm in thick rivers, but his hand stayed steady. He had been hurt worse than this and kept fighting. Pain was just a message. and sometimes you had to ignore your messages. The second boarding tube connected, and more raiders poured into the ship from the other direction. Marcus was trapped in the middle of the corridor with enemies on both sides and a princess to protect. This was exactly the kind of situation the Marine instructors had called a total disaster, but Marcus had another name for it. He called it Tuesday. He grabbed Salith and pulled her into a side room, slamming the door behind them. "Stay here," he said. "What are you going to do?" "Something stupid," he said, and then he was gone. Marcus charged into the corridor like a man who had forgotten how to die. His pistol ran empty, so he used it as a club. When that broke, he pulled his knife. When the knife got stuck in a Kethri skull, he used his fists. A blade caught him across the back, and he felt the cold bite of metal against his spine. Another blade sliced his leg, and he stumbled but did not fall. A third blade punched through his side, and he grabbed the arm that held it and broke it with a savage twist. Blood was everywhere now, most of it his. The deck plates were slippery with it, and Marcus was starting to feel dizzy. But there were still more Kethri between him and Salith, and he would not stop until every single one of them was dead. He fought like a demon from old Earth legends, like a thing made of rage and determination. The Kethri had never seen anything like it. They had killed humans before, and humans always died when you hurt them enough. But this human would not stop. "What are you?" One of them hissed as Marcus crushed its throat with his bare hands. "I am the guy you should not have messed with," Marcus said. The last Kethri stood between Marcus and the door where Salith was hiding. It was bigger than the others, probably the leader, and it held a plasma rifle pointed directly at Marcus's chest. "You are already dead," the creature said. "Your body just does not know it yet. Look at yourself. You are bleeding from a dozen wounds. No creature can survive that." Marcus looked down at himself. The Kethri was right. He was a mess of blood and torn flesh. By any reasonable measure, he should be dead already. But Marcus Cole had never been reasonable. "Guess I am too stubborn to die," he said. He threw himself forward just as the Kethri fired. The plasma bolt burned across his chest, but he was already moving. His hands found the creature's throat and squeezed until something cracked. The Kethri fell, and Marcus fell with it. He lay on the blood-soaked deck, staring up at the ceiling, waiting for the darkness to take him. He'd given everything he had, and there was nothing left. But then he heard a door open and saw footsteps approached, and Salith's face appeared above him with tears streaming down her silver cheeks. "You fool," she whispered. "You absolute fool. Why did you do this?" "Job," Marcus managed to say. "Supposed to protect you. This is not protection. This is suicide. No one was supposed to die for me. Not dead yet," he said, and tried to smile. Salith's hands pressed against the wound in his side, and she gasped at how much blood poured through her fingers. Valhyrian blood was slow and thick. It did not flow like this. "We have to get you to the medical bay," she said. "Cannot walk. Then I will carry you." And she did. Somehow, this delicate alien princess, who had never lifted anything heavier than a dinner plate, managed to drag Marcus through the corridors to the medical bay. She put him on the table and started the automated systems, and then she did something Marcus never expected. She stayed. For 3 days, Salith did not leave his side. She cleaned his wounds with her own hands. She changed his bandages. She fed him water and broth when he could swallow. She talked to him when he was awake and watched over him when he slept. On the second day, his fever spiked so high that the medical system started screaming warnings. Salith held his hand and refused to let go, even when the computers said he was going to die. But Marcus did not die. On the third day, his fever broke. On the fourth day, he opened his eyes and asked for something to eat. On the fifth day, he tried to stand up, and Salith had to push him back down. How is this possible? She demanded. I watched you lose enough blood to fill a bath. I saw wounds that should have killed you 3 times over. And now you are asking for breakfast? Marcus shrugged, then winced at the pain. Humans are tough. This is not tough. This is impossible. My people would have died in the first minute of that fight. Any of those wounds would have killed a Valhyrum. Different biology, I guess. Salus sat down heavily in the chair beside his bed. I have lived for 200 years, she said. I have studied every species in the known galaxy. I thought I understood what humans were. I thought you were primitive, simple, fragile. But you are not fragile at all, are you? Never really thought about it. You should, she said. Because what you did was not natural. What you did was miraculous. Marcus looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something new in her golden eyes. It was not contempt anymore. It was not even gratitude. It was something deeper, something that made his heart beat faster despite all his wounds. I had something worth fighting for, he said quietly. Salus' breath caught in her throat. Marcus, you called me Marcus, he said. Not human? Not mercenary. Marcus, I suppose I did, she said, and her silver cheeks darkened with what might have been a blush. They sat in silence for a long moment, and something shifted between them. The walls that Salus had built so carefully were starting to crack, and through those cracks, Marcus could see the real person hiding inside. Thank you, she finally said, for saving my life, for bleeding for me. I will not forget, just doing my job. No, she said, and her hand found his. No, that was something more than a job. And I think you know it. Marcus knew it. He had known it the moment he threw himself into battle against impossible odds. He was not just protecting a client anymore. He was protecting her. The ship flew on through the dark spaces between stars, carrying 2 people who were no longer strangers. Whatever came next, they would face it together. They were 3 days from the Kethrin system when the Valhyrum fleet found them. Marcus was in the cockpit when the sensors started screaming. 12 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, surrounding them like wolves around wounded prey. Imperial warships, Salus said from behind him, and her voice was heavy with defeat. My mother found me. Can we run? From 12 warships? She laughed bitterly. We would be dust before we traveled 100 kilometers. The communication system crackled to life, and a cold voice filled the cockpit. Princess Salith Vorn. By order of Empress Valith Vorn, you are commanded to surrender yourself immediately. Any resistance will be met with lethal force. Salith closed her eyes. It is over. Maybe I can... No, she said firmly. You have bled enough for me, Marcus. I will not let you die fighting my mother's fleet. This is my burden to carry. She reached for the communication controls, but Marcus caught her hand. What happens to you when we surrender? I go home, she said. I marry Lord Kethrin. I become a symbol of peace between our houses. And I never see you again. The words hit Marcus harder than any blade. Salith, please, she said, and her voice cracked. Please do not make this harder than it already is. She opened the channel and spoke clearly. This is Princess Salith Vorn. I surrender. Do not harm the human. He was only following my orders. Within the hour, Valhyrum soldiers had boarded the ship. They were tall and graceful, and they looked at Marcus like he was something they had found on the bottom of their boots. They put restraints on his wrists and marched him off the ship without a word. He expected a cell. He expected interrogation. He expected execution. What he got was something far more terrifying. The flagship of the Valhyrian fleet was enormous, a city floating in space, and at its heart was a throne room that made Marcus feel smaller than he had ever felt in his life. The ceiling stretched up so high that he could not see where it ended. The walls were covered in gold and precious gems. And at the far end, sitting on a throne carved from a single massive crystal, was the Empress herself. Valith Vorn was ancient. That was the first thing Marcus noticed. She had the same silver skin as her daughter, the same golden eyes, but there was something in her face that spoke of centuries of rule. She had seen empires rise and fall, and she was still sitting on her throne. "So," she said, and her voice echoed through the vast chamber, "this is the human who helped my daughter run away from her responsibilities." Marcus stood straight despite the restraints on his wrists. "I was hired to protect her." "That is what I did." "Indeed," the Empress said. "I have seen the recordings from the ship. I watched you fight. I watched you bleed. I watched you refuse to die when any sensible creature would have surrendered to the inevitable." She stood from her throne and walked down the steps, toward him. Every Valhyrian in the room held their breath. The Empress did not approach prisoners. The Empress did not lower herself to speak to lesser beings. But she approached Marcus. She stopped directly in front of him and studied his face with those ancient golden eyes. "You killed 23 Kethri raiders," she said. "You sustained injuries that would have killed a Valhyrian warrior 10 times over. And when my daughter called you a fool for throwing away your life, do you know what you said?" Marcus remembered. "I said I was not dead yet, not dead yet," the Empress repeated. Such a simple phrase. Such a human phrase. We Valhyrian would never say such a thing. When we are dying, we accept our fate with dignity and grace. But you humans, you fight until the very last breath, and then you fight some more. She turned and walked back toward her throne. "Do you know why the Valhyrian have ruled this sector of space for 10,000 years? Superior technology?" Marcus guessed. "Partly," she admitted. "But mostly it is because we have never faced a species that could truly threaten us. Every race we encountered was either too weak to resist or too wise to try. We thought we understood the galaxy and our place in it." She sat back on her throne and looked down at him. "And then humans appeared. A young species, barely 1,000 years into space travel. Primitive by our standards. Fragile, we thought. But you are not fragile at all, are you, Marcus Cole?" "I am just a man." "No," she said. "You are something more. You are a warning. Your species spreads across the stars like wildfire, and now I understand why. You do not know when to quit. You do not know when to give up. You bleed and you break, and you keep going anyway." She waved her hand, and the restraints on Marcus's wrists clicked open and fell to the floor. "My daughter loves you," she said. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. "I what?" "Do not pretend to be surprised. I have watched the recordings. I have seen the way she looks at you. I have seen the way she held your hand while you lay dying. My daughter has never loved anything in her 200 years of life. And now she loves a human mercenary who should by all rights be dead." The Empress leaned forward on her throne. "This presents me with a problem. You see, I need my daughter to marry Lord Catherine. The alliance is too important. Too many lives depend on it. But I also know my daughter, and I know that if I force her to go through with this marriage while her heart belongs to someone else, she will find a way to destroy everything I have built." "What are you saying?" "I am saying that you have created a situation with no easy solution," the Empress said. "But I am the Empress of the Valhyrian Dominion. I have ruled for 3,000 years. I did not survive this long by choosing easy solutions." She stood again and spread her arms wide. "I am offering you a position, Marcus Cole. Royal Protector to Princess Salith. You will live in the palace. You will guard my daughter with your life. You will be bound to the royal household by oath and blood." Marcus felt the trap closing around him. "And if I refuse?" "Then you will be executed for kidnapping a princess of the realm," the Empress said calmly. and my daughter will spend the rest of her very long life hating me. I would prefer to avoid both of those outcomes. So I do not really have a choice. You always have a choice," the Empress said. But some choices are wiser than others. Marcus thought about it. He thought about his life before this job. The empty stations and the cheap bars and the endless parade of clients who saw him as nothing more than a weapon for hire. He thought about Syleth, her golden eyes and her hidden smile, and the way she had held his hand while he lay dying. "I accept," he said. The Empress smiled, and it was not a warm smile. "Good. Then welcome to the family, Marcus Cole. I suspect you are going to find your new position quite challenging." And his guards led him away to his new quarters in the palace. Marcus could not shake the feeling that he had just walked into a trap far more dangerous than any Kethri raider. But when he passed Syleth in the corridor, and she looked at him with hope blooming in her golden eyes, he knew that he would walk into 1,000 traps for the chance to stay by her side. The Empress watched him go, and her smile grew wider. She had plans for this human. Plans that reached far beyond simple bodyguard duties. A creature who refused to die, who bled freely and healed quickly, who would do anything to protect the ones he loved. That was too valuable to waste on a marriage alliance. That was something to be cultivated, studied, and used. The game was just beginning. Life in the Valheim Palace was nothing like Marcus had expected. He had imagined quiet corridors and peaceful days. Instead, he found himself in a nest of vipers where every smile hid a knife and every kind word carried poison. The noble houses of the Valheim Dominion had been playing politics for thousands of years, and they saw Marcus as nothing more than an insect that had wandered into their web. The first assassination attempt came on his third day. Marcus was walking with Syleth through the palace gardens when he noticed the servant. The man was too nervous. His hands were shaking, and he kept glancing at Syleth with a look that Marcus recognized all too well. "Get down!" Marcus shouted, and he threw himself in front of Syleth just as the servant drew a blade and lunged. The knife meant for Syleth's heart sank into Marcus's shoulder instead. He grunted at the pain, grabbed the servant's wrist, and twisted until bones cracked. The would-be assassin screamed and fell. "Marcus," Syleth gasped. "You are hurt." "Just a scratch," he said, even though the blade was still sticking out of his shoulder. "Are you okay?" "Am I okay?" She stared at him in disbelief. "You have a knife in your shoulder, and you are asking if I am okay?" "That is literally my job." The palace guards arrived and dragged the assassin away. The medics came and removed the blade and bandaged the wound. And through it all, Marcus never left Syleth's side. "This was Lord Catherine's work," Syleth said quietly when they were finally alone. "He cannot force me to marry him if I am dead. My sister would take my place, and she would be more agreeable. Then we need to be more careful." "We?" She looked at him with something soft in her eyes. "You almost died for me again, Marcus." Most guards would have stepped aside and let the blade find its target. "I am not most guards." "No," she said. "No, you are not." The assassination attempts continued. Poison in her food, which Marcus tasted first and spent 2 days vomiting. Snipers on the rooftops, whose shots Marcus took in the chest while pushing Syleth to safety. Explosive devices in their chambers, which Marcus found and removed at the cost of 3 burned fingers. Each time, Marcus bled. Each time, he healed. And each time, the nobles of the Valheim court watched with growing unease. "He is not natural," they whispered in the corridors. "He should be dead 10 times over. What kind of monster have the humans sent us?" But the Empress watched too, and her eyes held something very different from fear. "You are becoming quite famous," she told Marcus one evening when she summoned him to her private chambers. "The human who will not die. The bleeding guardian. The monster in princess's clothing. I am just doing my job. You keep saying that, the Empress said. But we both know it stopped being just a job a long time ago. Marcus said nothing. There was nothing to say. My daughter is happier than I have ever seen her, the Empress continued. She smiles now. She laughs. She looks forward to each day instead of dreading it. You have given her something precious, Marcus Cole. Something I could never give her. I just hope, the Empress said. You have given her hope. And that is why I'm going to tell you something that I have never told another living soul. She leaned forward, and her ancient eyes burned with intensity. I am dying. Marcus felt the words like a punch to the gut. What? I have ruled for 3,000 years, she said. But even Valharam do not live forever. I have perhaps 50 years left, maybe less. And when I die, everything I have built will collapse into chaos unless I have prepared properly. Why are you telling me this? Because I need someone I can trust to protect my daughter when I am gone, the Empress said. Someone who cannot be bought or intimidated or swayed by political pressure. Someone who will bleed for her without hesitation. Someone who loves her. Marcus felt his heart stop. I never said. You did not have to, the Empress said. I have watched you take blade after blade, bullet after bullet, poison after poison, and every single time your first words were about her safety. That is not duty. That is love. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. Lord Catherine grows impatient. The assassination attempts will become more bold. Soon he will stop sending servants and start sending armies. My daughter will need a protector who can face armies. One man cannot face armies. One Valharam cannot. The Empress agreed. But you are not Valharam. I have studied your species now. I have read every report, every study, every account of humans in combat. You are not the fragile primitives we thought you were. You are something far more dangerous. You are survivors. She turned back to face him. Your species evolved on a death world. Everything on your planet was trying to kill you, and you killed it instead. You developed the ability to heal from injuries that would kill any other species. You developed the ability to keep fighting long past the point where you should have surrendered. You developed the ability to love so fiercely that you would die rather than see your loved ones harmed. We are just humans. No, the Empress said. You are the most terrifying species in the galaxy, and you do not even know it. And that is why I chose you for my daughter. That is why I will never let you go. The words should have frightened Marcus, but they did not, because he realized that he did not want to go. He wanted to stay here, in this palace full of enemies, protecting a princess who had somehow stolen his heart. What do you need me to do? He asked. Keep her alive, the Empress said. Whatever it takes. However much you have to bleed. Keep my daughter alive until I can deal with Lord Catherine permanently. And after that? The Empress smiled. After that, we will discuss your future. I have plans for you, Marcus Cole. Plans that will change the destiny of the Valharam Dominion forever. But first, you must survive what is coming. What is coming? War, the Empress said. Lord Catherine has run out of patience. His assassins have failed too many times. Soon he will bring his armies to my doorstep and demand what he believes is his by right. Marcus felt a cold calm settle over him. War was something he understood. War was something he had trained for his entire life. Then I will be ready, he said. I know you will, the Empress said. That is why I chose you. As Marcus left the Empress's chambers, he found Salith waiting for him in the corridor. Her golden eyes were worried, and she reached for his hand without thinking. What did my mother want? She asked. Marcus looked at her, this beautiful alien princess who had somehow become the center of his universe, and he made a decision. She wanted to make sure I understood my duties, he said. And do you? I understand that I will protect you with my life, Marcus said. I understand that I will bleed for you as many times as necessary. And I understand that no matter what happens, I will never leave your side. Saleth's breath caught. Marcus, it sounds like the truth, he said. Because it is. She stepped closer to him, close enough that he could feel the coolness of her silver skin. My mother is using you, she said. She always uses people. It is how she has survived for 3,000 years. I know. And you are staying anyway? I am staying because of you, Marcus said. Whatever games your mother is playing, whatever plans she has for me, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is that you are safe and happy. Saleth looked up at him with tears in her golden eyes. I do not deserve you, probably not, Marcus said with a slight smile. But you are stuck with me anyway, and in that corridor, surrounded by enemies on all sides, with war on the horizon and death at every turn. Marcus Cole kissed the alien princes he had sworn to protect. Above them, hidden in the shadows, a security camera recorded everything. And in her chambers, the Empress watched and smiled. Everything was going exactly according to plan. The attack came at midnight, when the palace was quiet and the guards were tired. Marcus was asleep in his chambers when the explosion started. He was on his feet and running before his eyes were fully open, his pistol in one hand and his knife in the other. Saleth, he shouted as he burst through her door. We have to. Her chambers were empty. Panic flooded through Marcus like ice water. He checked every room, every corner, every hiding place, but she was gone. Someone had taken her while he slept. The palace was in chaos. Lord Catherine's soldiers were everywhere, fighting the Empress's guards in every corridor. Explosions shook the walls. Screams echoed through the night. Marcus grabbed the wounded guard and demanded answers. Where's the princess? The gardens, the guard gasped. They took her to the gardens. They said they would execute her at dawn unless the Empress surrendered. Marcus let the guard fall and started running. The path to the gardens was blocked by soldiers. Marcus did not slow down. He hit the first line like a battering ram, his knife flashing in the emergency lights. Blood sprayed across his face, some of it his own, most of it not. A blade caught his side. He ignored it. A bullet punched through his leg. He kept running. A plasma bolt burned across his back. He did not stop. The soldiers had never seen anything like it. They had been told that one human guarded the princess, and they had laughed. What could one human do against an army? Now they knew the answer. One human could kill them all. Marcus carved a path through the palace, leaving a trail of bodies behind him. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds, maybe more. He could feel his body starting to fail, his vision starting to blur. But the gardens were close now, and Saleth was waiting. He burst through the final door and found himself in the royal gardens, where flowers from 100 worlds bloomed in the artificial light. And in the center of the garden, surrounded by soldiers, was Saleth. She was on her knees with her hands bound behind her back. A blade was pressed against her throat, and standing over her was Lord Catherine himself, tall and cruel and smiling. Ah, Catherine said as Marcus stumbled into the garden. The famous human protector. You look terrible. Perhaps you should sit down. Let her go, Marcus said. Or what? Catherine laughed. You can barely stand. You are bleeding out from wounds that would kill any sane creature. What exactly do you think you can do? Kill you. Bold words for a dead man. Marcus looked at Saleth, and their eyes met. She was afraid. He could see that. But she was also trying to tell him something. Her eyes flicked to the left, then back to him, and Marcus understood. You made a mistake, Marcus said, taking a step forward. Stay back, Catherine warned, pressing the blade tighter against Saleth's throat. A thin line of silver blood appeared on her skin. One more step and I will end her. You will not. Marcus said, and he kept walking. Because if you kill her, you have nothing to bargain with. And if you have nothing to bargain with, there is nothing stopping me from killing every single person in this garden. You are bluffing. Am I? Marcus looked around at the soldiers, at their nervous faces and trembling hands. They had watched him tear through an army to get here. They had seen what he could do. And now they were wondering if dying for Lord Catherine was really worth it. Your men are scared, Marcus said. They should be. I have killed 47 of them tonight, and I have not even started trying. You are dying, Catherine insisted. Look at yourself. Not dead yet, Marcus said, and he smiled. And then several things happened at once. Salith twisted and bit down hard on Catherine's hand. The Lord screamed and dropped his blade. Marcus charged forward with the last of his strength, and the Empress's elite guards burst through every entrance to the garden at the same moment. Catherine's soldiers threw down their weapons and surrendered. They had no desire to die for a losing cause. But Catherine himself pulled a hidden pistol and aimed it at Marcus. If I cannot have her, he screamed, no one will. But he was not aiming at Marcus. He was aiming at Salith. Marcus moved without thinking. He threw himself between them just as Catherine fired. The plasma bolt hit him square in the chest, burning through flesh and bone, and Marcus collapsed at Salith's feet. Marcus! She screamed. The elite guards took Catherine down with a dozen shots. He fell and did not move. The battle was over, but Marcus was dying. Salith cradled his head in her lap, her tears falling on his face. No, she whispered. No, please, you cannot do this. You cannot leave me. Marcus looked up at her beautiful silver face and her golden eyes, and he tried to smile. Told you, he managed to say. Worth bleeding for. Stop talking. Save your strength. No strength left, he said. Just wanted to say goodbye. I will not let you die, Salith said fiercely. I refuse. And then the Empress was there, kneeling beside them with a medical kit in her hands. Move, she commanded, and Salith moved. The Empress worked quickly, injecting Marcus with drugs and sealing his wounds with emergency foam. He has lost too much blood, she said. Even for a human this is... Save him, Salith demanded. I do not care what it takes. Save him. The Empress looked at her daughter, at the desperation in her eyes, and she nodded. Get him to the medical bay, she ordered. Now, Marcus slipped in and out of consciousness. He dreamed of Earth, of green fields and blue skies. He dreamed of Salith, of her smile and her touch and her voice. He dreamed of death, cold and dark and empty. But he did not die. 3 weeks later, Marcus opened his eyes to find Salith asleep in a chair beside his bed. She looked exhausted, like she had not slept properly in days. But she was alive, and she was safe, and that was all that mattered. Hey, he said, and his voice was rough from disuse. Salith's eyes flew open. Marcus! She threw her arms around him and held on tight. I thought I had lost you. Not that easy to get rid of me. She laughed and cried at the same time. You fool! You wonderful, stupid, impossible fool. The door opened, and the Empress entered. She looked at Marcus with something that might have been respect, or might have been wonder. I watched the recordings, she said. 47 kills on your way to the garden. Then you took a plasma bolt to the chest to save my daughter. The medical team said your heart stopped 3 times on the table. Sounds about right. You know what this means? Marcus looked at Salith, still holding his hand, still crying. I am hoping it means I get to stay. More than that, the Empress said. I am formally adopting you into the royal bloodline. Not as a servant, not as a guard, but as family. You will be bound to House Vaughn forever, and to my daughter specifically. Is that not a bit extreme? You died 3 times to save her, the Empress said. If that is not loyalty worthy of royalty, nothing is. She leaned closer and lowered her voice. You understand what this means, do you not? You will never leave. I will never let you go. You are too valuable, too loyal, too impossible. Marcus looked at Salith, at the hope in her eyes, at the future stretching out before them. I never wanted to leave. The Empress smiled, and this time it was almost warm. Then welcome to the family, Marcus Cole of House Vorn. May you bleed many more times in our service. As the Empress left, Salith leaned down and kissed Marcus softly. She trapped you, she whispered. She planned this from the beginning. I know, Marcus said. And you do not mind? Marcus pulled her close and held her tight. The best trap I ever walked into, he said. Outside the window, the stars burned bright and eternal. Somewhere out there, the galaxy continued on its way, full of danger and wonder and possibility. But Marcus Cole had found his place at last. He had found something worth bleeding for, and he would do it again and again and again, for as long as he lived. Because that was what humans did. They loved fiercely, they fought endlessly, and they never, ever gave up.